I lived in a small town in the western United States, a place so obscure it was hard to find even on maps. The town was about 40 minutes away from the highway. It had no tourist attractions or special features. For the people who lived there, it was simply a place called home. The busiest place in town, actually the only busy place, was a coffee shop called Maple Corner where I worked. Coffee and snacks. This happened when I was 22. I was a fairly quiet young woman. I never had any problems with anyone. My father worked on a farm outside of town. I worked at Maple Corner. One of my favorite things about this shop was the morning shifts, because the customers who came in the mornings were always the same. I liked that routine. I would open the shop at 6:30 a.m. At 7 a.m., retired Sheriff Tom would come in, get his black coffee, chat a bit, and leave. At 7:15 a.m., high school teacher Mrs. Hale would come in. At 7:40 a.m., Rick, the truck driver who never spoke, would come in, get his coffee, pay, and leave. Everything was familiar, the same routine every morning. I liked that order too, until one Tuesday. That day, I opened the shop and saw my regular customers off. It was around 8 o'clock. At this time, there was usually a brief silence in the shop. That day, it was a little quieter. I turned on the radio and played some music at a low volume, and I started cleaning the coffee machine. Just then, the doorbell rang. When I looked up, a stranger I had never seen before in town walked in. He was definitely not a local. He was tall and wore a dark coat. It wasn't cold, but his coat was thick, like a winter coat. He clearly had a beard, but it wasn't unkempt. He just seemed not to care. Instead of looking at the menu or around the shop, he looked at me as soon as he entered. He slowly walked towards the counter. "Good morning. What would you like?" I asked. The man didn't answer. He stopped and smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was more like the kind of smile people make when they acknowledge something they already know. Then the man said to me, "You're alone here." To be honest, I swallowed, feeling a little nervous. "Yes, it's usually quiet in the mornings," I said. The man tilted his head slightly, looked at his watch, and said, "It's exactly 8 o'clock. Normally, this place is packed at this hour." Hearing this, I believed he was someone who knew this town. "So, you know this place?" I said. He said he'd known it for a long time, but I was seeing him for the first time. I'd never seen him in town or in the coffee shop before. I walked over to the coffee machine to look like I was doing something. I asked him again what he wanted to drink. "What do you recommend, Emma?" I stopped, my hair standing on end. When I asked him how he knew my name, he said, "It's on your name tag." But I had forgotten to wear my name tag that day. There was no tag on my chest. "You're mistaken. I don't have a name tag," the man replied with a smile. "You haven't put it on today, but you usually do." The store started to shrink. I wanted to reach for the emergency button under the counter, but the man's eyes didn't leave me for a second. Then suddenly, in a low, calm voice, "You won't call the police, will you?" I was scared and replied in a trembling voice, "Why would I need to call the police?" The man continued to smile. Then he asked me for a crepe. I went to the kitchen to make the crepe. I turned my back on the man for maybe 10 seconds. When I turned back to the counter, the man was gone from the shop. But the doorbell hadn't rung. There were no footsteps, no sound at all. Where had he gone? With fear in my eyes, thinking he might be hiding somewhere, I searched the shop. Just then, I jumped when the doorbell rang. It was Sheriff Tom. I told Tom what had happened. He said he hadn't seen a stranger in town, but he would tell the new sheriff to look into it. When my shift ended, I left work and came home. While eating dinner, I started to hear noises coming from my backyard. When I looked out the window into the backyard, the same man from the cafe was standing in the middle of my backyard, smiling at me. I immediately called Tom. He told me to stay calm and that he would be right over. The man was standing there, doing nothing. I yelled from the window. "I called the police. The police are coming, sir. I suggest you leave my yard. What you are doing is a crime." The man smiled, turned around, and suddenly disappeared. By the time Tom arrived, the man was gone. I was terrified. That day, they tried to get his footprints in the garden, but it was as if he hadn't stepped where he walked. He hadn't walked where he was seen. He only appeared in the cafe's camera footage, and even there, his face wasn't visible. He hadn't appeared on any cameras until he reached the cafe. After that day, I didn't go to the morning shift for a long time. I didn't see that man again for a long time. I was afraid and hesitant to be